Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, first of all, thank you all so much for being here. I'm super excited to get into some Next.js, some serverless today, and just be here live with y'all. I think that's like such an important part of the puzzle for me. So, let's just dive right in. Cool. So today we're going to be doing some serverless Cloudinary with Next.js. We're going to be dealing with dynamic API routes, setting up the custom dynamic OG images through those routes, and dealing with a little bit of upload inside of the serverless. For those who don't know, we just got a little bit of an introduction, but my name is Demetrius Clark, obviously a developer experience engineer at Cloudinary, Twitch stream community leader and consultant. Put some links on the side, and I'll be sharing this Notion space with y'all afterwards so that you all can go through. And I've set up a couple of different ways. I have a walkthrough, some quick overview, some resources for you guys. But just wanted to have you all set up to be able to handle this. If you're watching this later and didn't get a chance to watch it live, or just like to go at your own pace. So instead of going through any of these, let's just hop right into it. So you'll be pulling down a repo. We've already got that set up here. So today we're just going to go through. We've got a couple of things set up already, some components that really don't matter too much. Our pages, you can see we're missing our API directory, so we're going to be setting that up. But all in all, we'll be working really within components and then our pages directory. So one of the first things that we want to do is set ourselves up. So you can see here, we've got our little upload form. It doesn't do anything quite yet. Let's head on over to it. So we've got our upload here. So as you can see, we don't have much set up. We got a couple of things for state set up to track what file we're uploading and things like that. But let's just dive into one of the first things we got to do is set up a couple of our dependencies. So let's go ahead and add in Multer, Streamifier. We're going to need Cloudinary and Cloudinary build URL. So basically, we're going to be sending through a read stream to Cloudinary. So Streamer and Multer are going to help with that. And then Cloudinary and Cloudinary build URL, we're bringing in two packages. One will be for our node environments. The other will be for kind of any environment. We're going to be using it within the client side. Super small URL builder for Cloudinary that Maya Shavin, shout out to Maya Shavin for building it. Super convenient way to get started with Cloudinary and how powerful the URLs are. One of the first things that we're going to want to set up is the API route that will handle our uploading. So we'll go in here, we'll create an API folder. Inside of that folder, we'll just create upload.js. Cool. So one of the things that we're going to run into quickly is, and I set up an example for you down here. Obviously, I have mine in m.local, but you'll need your Cloudinary cloud name, your API key, and your API secret. So you will need to sign up for an account to go through this, but super quick and easy, and we have a very generous free plan. Once you have those set up, we can actually just come in here. We'll bring in Multer. We'll bring in Streamifier. And last but not least, we need some Cloudinary. We'll actually const Cloudinary equals. And we're going to actually do this so that we can pull out the V2 version of the Node SDK. Then we'll need to set up our Multer. So we'll set let storage equal multer.memory storage. Bang, super easy. Then we'll set up our upload for Multer. Right. And then we just need to set up our credentials with Cloudinary. So we'll config that. And this is where we'll pass in our cloud name. The fun thing about live coding is that it never does what you want it to do. Process.env, and then we'll get the Cloudinary cloud name. Our API key. And come on now. I swear my keyboard never likes to let me caps lock. It's like one of the things that will always be my downfall. Cloudinary API key. And finally, we get our secret. Cloudinary API secret. Boom. So we got that set up. So now we just need to set up the actual handler function for our serverless function inside of our routes. We'll do our export default. Oh, not in caps. Of course, it wants to work now. Oh my, stop. Thank you. Export default function, handler, bang, not an array. All right, and then we'll just get our rec and res from here. Boom. So here now is where we'll start kind of bringing in Multer and Streamifier to set up the create read stream that will pass to Cloudinary for the file. So first we'll start with an upload.single, which is an image. And then we'll invoke that with the rec. And then a function, callback function for our error. All right, and we'll do streamifier.create read stream, and we'll pipe in the file buffer. All right, we'll pipe that through to Cloudinary. So in here, we'll do Cloudinary.uploader.upload stream. All right, and then in here, we'll be able to pass in what will be coming back from our client side, right? So we'll be able to define the folder here. That's one thing we're going to want. So the really cool thing is we'll be passing through a folder name and a public ID. So it'll actually create that folder if it doesn't exist, and then plop that image with the public ID that we define right in there. Another thing we want to do just for safekeepings is define the resource type. If we don't define that on the body, we will just set it to auto. And finally, again, we'll go back and we'll do the public ID. Okay, bang. And then in here, we are going to want to have another callback that will allow us to get our result. So we'll just do some error checking. Oh, maybe we should spell error right. All right, if we do that, we'll do res.status, and we'll send back a 500 and throw the error in. If those things do work, oh, we still spelled error wrong. Got to get better at spelling error. Then, if it's successful, we'll just send through a 200, and we will put the result back, right? And then we'll end. Awesome. Now, the one thing we can't forget to do, we're going to want to turn the body parser off. So we'll just export the config. API, body parser, and we'll set that to false. All right, so we've got our serverless function right now. Now we're going to want to jump into the actual upload itself. All right. So like I said, we've got a little bit here. You'll see we're using Chakra UI. It's just really easy to set up demos with Chakra. I don't think there's anything better for getting up and running quickly. So you'll see we have a couple of inputs, a button to upload, some text to let you know that we're uploading to Cloudinary. So let's just go ahead and start defining out some of the things we're going to need. So first, we're our title here. We've already got our public ID. So let's just go ahead and set an on change there. All right. And we will just set public ID to the value. Then we have our secondary one here, which is our file. And this is going to be a little bit, more. So we'll end up doing another on change. And then we'll just use set file, not set public ID, set file to upload. And inside of here, we'll just do e.target.files, and we'll grab the first file. And then finally, for our upload, we're going to want to define a function for this. So right now, we'll just say on click. And we will do a callback here to do on submit. And then we'll pass in the file to upload. Okay, so let's define out real quick that on submit function. All right. So in here, we are going to, we actually defined it improperly down here. I don't even think we need this. We can actually just pass in on submit. So in the on submit function, we'll set up our form data because we're going to be passing it through as form data. So we'll do new form data. Then we will append some of the stuff that we've been tracking, right? So we will bring in the image, which would be file to upload. We've got our form data to grab the folder, which we're going to define ourselves. We're actually not going to have something to define the folder. You can set up another input for that if you'd like. Folder, and we'll just name it OG Images. All right. And then our last one we'll want to pass through the for the public ID. Oh, not public ID. There we go. All right. And then we'll just pass it to public ID. Bang. And then we'll do our fetch. All right. All right. And then we'll just go to /API/upload. And we will set up our method. What was that? Oh, thank you. Somebody in the crowd, did they give me that feedback? Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys following along. So yeah, we've got our, let's go back. We've got our fetch set up. We will pass in the form data and we'll pass in some headers. We'll just do the content key. And that will be cool. And boom, boom, boom. Let's see. We're looking good. We're looking good. And then another thing we have here. So we have this image. So we can actually say down here, we'll go image. Oh, and then actually for this, we're going to have to set up some ways to handle the data once we get it. So we'll do without then. We'll grab the res and we'll just turn it to JSON. And then we will set up the result and put that right into image. And this will give us access to whatever comes back from that upload so we can make sure that we're good. So let's, results. And then down here, we can actually say like, if something came back, let's actually just preview it to make sure. So we'll do source and we'll get a URL back if it's successful. All right. We'll just give it a little bit of margin top. So looks like we're good to go. Let's choose a file. Serverless conf OG, I already got that set up. And then we'll just name it the same. Conf OG. Let's upload that photo. Not giving us the image back. Let's go check our Cloudinary. Check our image. So it did end up saving to our Cloudinary account in the right folder, but we didn't get anything back. We don't have to spend too much time on that, but it should, once we get that response back, it should set up the image to be displayed down here. You can even set up, honestly, inside of the set file to upload. You could honestly set up a preview so that you could even, once you choose the file, set up a preview so that you know what you're uploading. But we'll skip past that right now. At least we got the successful upload. So we'll move forward. And now what we want to do is set up the way in which we can now add layers onto the OG image, right? So we've got our OG image, cool. It's a nice OG image, but it's got no information on it, right? And we've got blog posts, and we want to be able to make sure that we get some dynamic data onto that. So right now we should head on over to, let's actually try and get this. Let's try and get this working where we can see the image real quick. So let's import build image URL from Cloudinary. Build URL, and then we'll do const URL equals build image URL. Right. And we'll pass in, so it's OG images / what was it? Serverless conf OG. Okay. Let's just see if that works. Let's try and I think we have to also set up the cloud name here. So cloud name, and this is my cloud name for my MD Next project. And let's go down here. Let's actually just throw in URL. Let me see if let's go where so we've got the upload. What's going on here? Build image URL. Don't need this anymore at all. Bang. Okay, cool. So we've got our image. Let's apply some transformations here. So one of the big things that you usually have to deal with is adding transformations for text. So we'll just do chaining, and chaining will allow us to add multiple layers of different text. So we'll first start with our title layer. We'll give it some gravity to let it know it should be in the center. And I've also put resources in the Notion for people who are still learning transformations. Transformations are just ways that you apply different fields to your images. So resizing and adding, delivering the right images, things like that. That's what a transformation is defined at Cloudinary. So gravity just allows you to set up basically an area in which the layer will land on the image, right? So we've got our gravity, and then you can also define your X and Y. So for here, we'll actually just define Y minus 100. And then we will define our overlay, which will be text. So text, and we've got to pass in a font size. And then we'll actually, for later, this will be useful. We'll do this backtick so that we can actually add in, and we're actually going to need a little utility I wrote, which was clean text. So we'll need to clean that text for the Cloudinary URL, and we'll have a title that we'll be giving it, right? Okay, so we can go ahead and let's pass in a title, right? Const title equals, hey there. All right, let me just double check why we're getting no image back. That if you don't get an image back in this scenario, this is actually a really good example to show. If you don't get an image back in this scenario, you're actually dealing with a borked URL. So usually you'd have to go and check why the URL is borked, what's breaking it, and Cloudinary actually gives really useful error feedback when you bork something inside of the URL. For now, we're just gonna double check. We actually don't have text spelled right, so that's the usual Demetrius way. All right, cool. So we've got our first layer. Hey there is now showing up. Now that we're through like 50 million screw ups, let's actually just get a couple of more things set up so that once we drop this into our dynamic page, it'll already be ready with the variables that we need. So we'll set up two more. So we're going to set up one for the date and one for tags as well. So I'll just I'll go through that really quick. Gravity. We'll do this in the northeast section of the image. We will apply Y and X here. Right. And then we'll have our overlay, which is going to be text, and we'll spell it right this time, I promise you. We'll do a 40 because we don't want it to be extremely big. We'll do the same thing. We'll do some clean text, right? And boom, change these to backticks. Oops, change the backticks, and then date. And then let's just make this easier for ourselves. Just copy and paste it, right? That's how coding works nowadays. And then this one we'll actually do southeast. We have 10 here. And then we're going to do tags. Right. So let's quickly just make sure that they're all working. So const date. What's today's date? Is it the 12th? Here, 12. And then our tags. We will have, let's just do NextJS. Oh, that's not how tags are set up. NextJS, and we will have Cloudinary. Save it, reload, and then boom. Okay, cool. So we've got 3 pieces of overlays running in. So now, honestly, this right here is the most important piece of the pie. So we'll grab this, right? We'll just rip it out. All right. Get rid of this because we don't need this anymore. So as you see here down in the, we don't need that. Get rid of that too. Thank you. So as you can see in here, we have some blogs, right? Some nested blogs, some regular MDX setup files. Let's actually just set up a new one called more serverless, right? Oops. .mdx. And then in here, we'll just grab what we have in here for the front matter, because that's really all we need. It's all we care about. More serverless. So we'll say, thank you, more serverless. and team. Because you know what? The team needs some thanks sometimes. This is a hard thing to set up. Thank you so much, more serverless team. We'll do more serverless. That's my birthday. And then a lot of this other stuff doesn't really matter. And then we can head right into our blog and our slug page. This is the dynamic API page, right? So what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to quickly bring in the build image URL, and we're going to bring in the clean text function, right? Because we need those two for when we do this, not in the paths, but in here, right? Oh, no. Oh, gosh. I think I screwed up, but I'm okay because I can press Control Z. All right, now we're going to go back, grab this one more time, delete this so we don't have any errors. We're getting there, I promise. So now we can plop that right in here, right? So as you can see, we're getting the post data back, right? And then we're setting it post.mdx and post.data for the front matter. So here we'll just need to do post.data dot, right? And this will be able to grab the things from the front matter that we need. Mater. Isn't that the guy from Cars? Mater? I think it is. Post.data.tags, right? So this should be good. And then we just need to add in OG, right? And we will set that to, we have it defined as URL, right? And then in the page up here, we just need to bring that in out as a prop. So we can grab OG, OF. And then we will be able to set up right in here the open graph. And let's actually just do this from scratch. Let's get rid of this layout real quick, and we'll bring in. We have next SEO in here as well. So next SEO from next SEO, and then we'll just drop a fragment so that we can put it up top. And then next SEO, right? Save so we get some formatting. And then it is open, I think it's open graph. And then we've got URL, we've got images. Images, and that's an array. So you'll pass in the image here. So now we've got URL is equal to the OG. It's going to be a width of, we already know the width because we set it up on our OG image itself, right? So we'll do a height of 630. We'll do a width of 1200. And then we will just quickly set up inside of the open graph. We'll just set up the URL for the actual page real quick. URL is HTTPS or HTTP / localhost 3000 /blog / more serverless. And then we will save. Looking good. And then, so I'm using Sizey here, and Sizey actually, as an application, allows you to check the OG images of the page itself. So let's go to blog. Go with. Oh, thank you. Right. That's what's always, it's nice. You get like a mob programming session. That's my favorite. So let's check. Okay, cool. We've got our, thank you, more serverless and team by Demetrius Clark. Let's click into it real quick. Cool. The title's there. That's works. But let's. Bang. Awesome. So we're at the end of this. Let's go through real quickly because we had to go through very quickly to get this done. We've been able to upload an image. We already preset a image of our own. So that is basically where you'll start in this journey is getting a template image that works for you. Working on the upload. You can do the upload through the Cloudinary UI. I just wanted to show y'all how easy it is to set up uploads in a serverless form. So you upload it to your Cloudinary account. Once you have that into your Cloudinary account, the world is your oyster. You can set it up in any which way that you want to start doing these dynamic things. You can do dynamic text. You can do dynamic images that have text on top of the image, on top of the text. It's an endless matrix of things that you can do with Cloudinary on top of your OG images. And you can, as you can see here, pretty quickly able to set up a pretty complicated overlay system that passes right into our page and sets us up for really nice SEO and OG images. So thank y'all so much. Two things. thank you to whoever in the crowd and or Brian, who is helping me with my misspellings. I appreciate you heavily. And 2, thank you so much, Serverless Conf, more Serverless. This was like extremely fun to set up, and I'm excited to engage in some Q&A, and hopefully if anybody has any questions even afterwards or want to reach out to me, please do. That's something I love doing, is getting involved in the community and having conversations. So thank you so much.
All right. That was great. And I can't take credit. That was Nick who caught that first typo.
Thank you, Nick.
He caught most of them, actually. I think the only one that I caught was that with thing.
Was the with?
Yeah. So
Thank
yeah,
you, Ryan.
you know, that usually like when you're live coding on like Twitch or something, you got comments there, so people can give you feedback.
It's so nice.
Like
it's the best.
Yeah, we had to jump in and like on your mic in your ear being like, hey, by the way.
Honestly, I do this with like almost every conference, and I think that's my favorite part, is because then A, you know who's paying attention, and B, you see how many people are willing to help you when you're screwing up, and that's like the best thing about the community.
Yeah, so that was really cool, and I got to tell you, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, oh, geez, we're using Cloudinary. Why are we not doing this? Because every time we're creating a new blog post, I'm having to go into Figma and manually create those images and upload them and whatever. So like, yeah, that looked awesome. I'm gonna have to go back, rewatch this much slower, because I don't quite as fast as you. But
getting this into 30 minutes, like that's why I had to like pre-scaffold the upload component. There was even more that I was thinking of pre-scaffolding, but I was like, we can do this. 30 minutes, we can do this.
Well, you type fast too, so yeah, it's cool. All right, we got a few questions. So Nick asks, I missed it at the beginning, but how generous is the Cloudinary free tier as someone looking to mess around with it?
I will say, the hard part about Cloudinary, I think, is that we do a credit system, and the credit system isn't like extremely well defined for people. But I will say it would take you a generous amount of time and usage. They base it mostly off of transformations, and they do a lot of caching for you. So it actually doesn't hit the credit system as often as you'd think. I would have to dig a little deeper, and I actually did put in some resources for setting up an account and things like that inside the Notion. So I'll share that afterwards. But my bare answer is that it would take you a lot of movement to ever hit past the free tier limit. And if you ever do, honestly, Cloudinary is super generous. Reach out to our support, and we can definitely work with you.
Cool. All right. Yeah. And I mean, I know like I've used it for a bunch of stuff. It has a pretty generous free tier, so I would agree with that. So Jaden asks, what is the plan for next releases or new features? What's on the Cloudinary roadmap?
Yeah, so I think one of the big things that we've heard from the community recently was that, and I've definitely felt it myself in a lot of the builds that I've been doing. The Cloudinary SDKs are a bit bloated. They're a bit large, and they're not well broken into pieces that you can import individually and kind of split from. So that's definitely something that we're super focused on for upcoming releases. And I think that, a lot of our products have been centered around kind of moving into the multi-product space and finding ways to help people who are in marketing, finding ways to help less technical people set up a lot of the same, automation that we as developers can set up. But I would say as the developer relations team, we're like super focused on onboarding and setting up things like this where, again, Brian, you were saying like, I'm in Figma recreating these OG images all the time. I didn't even think to do it like this. I think there's a lot of features that currently exist for inside of Cloudinary that I still think a lot of people are struggling to learn while having to learn media at the same time. I think that's like a really hard struggle to balance. So I think that's something that we're very focused on as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you showed the transformations, but like I think even one of the things that was a key thing for me for offloading, kind of, this whole conference is about taking things that used to be complicated and offloading them to somebody else's servers, basically.
Right. Exactly.
And one of those things for me was trying to get the right properly optimized images for like the different browsers or for mobile and things like that, where where I would generally just upload a single version, and that didn't always work well on the mobile version and things like that. So Cloudinary does take that kind of pain in the butt thing where I might have to create different versions of different images and does it automatically. So that's one of my favorite things. I think,
Yeah, I think it's.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, like to that point. So like, I think one of the things to point out too is, and we didn't check out the URL, but the URL itself, when generated from the Node SDK, actually adds things like F-Auto and Q-Auto. And those are like the bread and butter of Cloudinary that do exactly what you're saying for delivery and making sure that we have the right size and the right delivery format for a browser. Like those are things that we handle pretty easily out of the box. And then things that Next handles really well. And I actually have like an extra credit piece inside of the Notion. With Next Image, you can actually generate the URLs on your own the same way that we were doing with build image URL. Set up your Next config to accept res.cloudinary.com, and then you get to now control all of your transformations on the image itself. And then Next Image will handle all of that, delivering to browser sizes, making sure that it's responsive, making sure that it's the right image format. Like you can then combine the powers of being able to do a lot of transformations like overlays and things like that are really complicated in Cloudinary side, and then just give it to Next Image component. And I feel like a lot of these frameworks are coming out with things that make this whole process of dealing with media a little bit easier. And I think that's like really important in the ecosystem right now.
Yeah, definitely. I know like even the older tools like CFE is built on Hugo, but it has actually I used to upload multiple versions of every single banner and stuff like that, but now it has that all built in. So I just kind of, it processes them at build time and does all that optimization for me. So yes, definitely true. Awesome. Anish asks, is the 25 gigabytes of net viewing bandwidth available under the free tier sufficient? Sufficient, I guess. I suppose we need clarification on what's sufficient for what, right?
I think without giving a specific answer again, I think without the clarity, I think I can say like, if you find yourself in a moment where you're afraid of what bumps over the free limit, reaching out to our support team. Like we have an entire team dedicated to helping out specifically with plans and things like this. So if you're a small team or an individual that's building a project and you're trying to push the boundaries, that's actually something we're super interested in. So reach out to our support. You can even reach out to me and I'll reach out to the support for you. I'll do all of the liaison work that you don't want to do. And we'll get you set up with something that's comfortable for your plan. We're really generous when it comes to that. When it starts to push into territory where you're like a business trying to maintain kind of a plan, that's a different story. But an individual who's trying to get started and learn about how to use Cloudinary, we definitely don't want to stop you at our tier limits just because. So definitely just reach out to us. That's something that we can handle for you.
Awesome. That sounds great. And Jaden is going to be, it's the last question we have so far. If anybody wants to throw any others in there, we've just got a few more minutes. He asked why you keep torturing yourself with live coding sessions.
So I love that question. So I don't mind messing up. Like the idea of development is centered around like this perfection thing. And it's like, don't get me wrong. Like I'm an egghead instructor. I get what like really well articulated content does. Since I started streaming and all of my, if you go and look at any of my talks, I do live coding for all of my talks because this is what it looks like to actually develop something. Obviously, we have time constraints. Obviously, we're in a bit of a different time bubble than you would have even live streaming or doing this like live in front of people, which I really miss doing. This is something that, again, like, the chat was involved. They were seeing that I was doing mess ups. They're seeing that this is what regular development looks like, is mess ups, is typos, is screw ups like this. Like these are the realities that you deal with as a developer. And I think a lot of the content nowadays, while it's really awesome, shows like the perfect case scenario. And like, I think we all as developers know that is just never that. It's just never the perfect case. So that's why I torture myself with live coding.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Granted, I enjoy all kinds of presentations, so this was a good change of pace. So Mike asked, what differentiates you from Imagex?
Yeah, so Imagex, while it has, I think one of the really cool things about Imagex is it does a good job at not forcing you to learn a lot about what the transformations are doing or about media. It just gives you like a really clean and simple API. I think Cloudinary just has so much more to offer from its API, from its core, as far as like being able to handle many types of media in many different ways. Like that's, you look into the ecosystem, and I think over quarantine we saw this the most. Like, people had the time right now to be able to ideate and think while they were kind of stuck at home and in this really terrible scenario. At least some did, and what you saw come from that is like really awesome stuff. Like, just talking about the next image component and the way that the browsers have been like really paying attention to ways that it makes it easier for you to do your job without having to know everything. I think that there's a lot of tools that fit into very niche places. I think Cloudinary is still all encompassing when it comes to what it can handle and the types of media that you will have to run into every day. We handle that in all of our SDKs.
Cool. So, one other comment that came through while you had your birthday up there, and I guess I didn't see it. I guess it was 93, and somebody said 93. Damn. Now I'm trying to figure out. I don't know. Does he mean 93? Damn, like damn, he's old, or 93? Damn, like damn, he's young. I
think
know.
I'm in the middle weird place now where I'm 28 and I could be either of those things to either person. Like, I feel like when I'm in the room with people, I'm still the young guy. Like, I'm still the baby to everybody. But then when I talk to certain people, they're like, dude, you're hitting near 30. And it's like, well, maybe I'm old. I don't know. So
let me tell you about
good
old.
question.
I don't want to put
exactly.
put my birth year on there. So yeah, he'd be like, that damn would be like, damn. Yeah. So, all right. Well, thank you, Demetrius. That was awesome. A lot of fun, and I hope we enjoyed giving it as much as we enjoyed watching it.
Oh, I definitely did.